All right, well, everyone, my name is Ron Roberts Jr., and I want to welcome you to Career Inspiration for This Generation and Energizing Students for Career Center and Employer Engagement. And I'm very, very excited about this event. This is the first time I've done an event like this in a few years, and so hoping to dust off some of the rust here a little bit too. But we have a tremendous group of employers who are taking some time out of their very busy schedules to join us, and so I'm excited to have them share some wonderful insights with you to help you to feel more comfortable and more confident in your interactions with employers. And so let's go ahead and to jump into things. And folks, just bear with me. I'm going to do some multitasking as I'm talking. I'm going to let some folks in. All right, so today's event, just a quick objectives is to first of all to spur student engagement with college career centers for greater success for career exploration and preparation. So I'm a big advocate for college career centers, and I don't think students use them nearly enough. And so we want to first of all be sure that students are familiar with the value that college career centers can provide them, and then encourage you to take advantage of those services. Number two objective, to advise students on how to effectively engage with employers in a variety of settings. And so looking for an internship or a full-time job is can be very challenging. And certainly the process of interacting with folks that you don't know, but you're trying to impress can obviously become even increasingly challenging too. And so today we want to be able to share some information that's going to help you to feel more confident and comfortable with engaging with employers, whether it be at a career fair, interview, company information session, and so forth. And then finally, we want to build student resilience and to inspire your confidence and hope during the internship or job search process. So once again, we know that this process of finding an internship or a job can be very challenging, maybe demoralizing at times. And so we don't only want to educate you on how to be more effective about it, but we do want to inspire you and just to be able to encourage you just to stay resilient, stay with the process, and just to know and trust that you will be successful. All right, so just want to share quickly about who I am. And so I'm a former college career advisor, and hence my love and advocacy for career centers. I worked at the University of Southern California for a number of years and really enjoyed interacting with students in that capacity. And eventually I phased into corporate recruiting, working for a few firms on the screen that you may be familiar with. And I'm currently with Griffith Company. And then finally, my full-time role is really self-titled career and college planning partner. So this is my calling. So I have my day job, but I also have my calling. So I'm very passionate about helping students to um, to be aware of the great career opportunities out there and to help them in some way to prepare them for those career opportunities. All right, and then whoops, then we have our event panelists. And so as you can see on the screen, I'm gonna give them an opportunity to introduce themselves in a few moments. One note I want to share with you all is that Joshua Gutierrez with Netflix is unfortunately unable to make it today due to a personal emergency. But Joshua was kind enough to accept my invitation to share some insights that I could pass along to you all too. So Joshua's not here in person, but he's definitely here with us in spirit. He's a great guy. So hopefully you all will be able to, some of you will be able to connect with him in the future. All right. So a couple of housekeeping notes. And so just want to encourage you all as students, certainly if you're not on the panel, to mute your microphone and be sure that there's nothing that's distracting students from hearing what our employers have to say. And then secondly, just encourage you to use the chat function for questions or comments. There will be a time for Q&A towards the end, and so we will give you an opportunity to take yourself off mute and ask your questions audibly. But, you know, in an interim, certainly feel free to put questions in the chat. And employers, you know, if you are still inclined, I invite you to respond to questions that may show up in the chat. I have no problem with that at all. And good to go. So, all right. So I want to, before we get into hearing our employers, I want to share a few quick PSAs, public service announcements. So number one, I think LinkedIn is a wonderful platform to help you um, to connect with employers, but also just to share who you are. And so as you, if you're familiar with LinkedIn, it's like your resume, your portfolio online. And so it gives folks an opportunity to see who you are, what you're about, and how you could possibly add value. And of course, you can certainly connect with employers too. So if you're not on LinkedIn, I highly encourage you to join LinkedIn and I'm sure you can Google how to do it. I'll put a link here and I'll put it in the chat later on. But your Career Center can help you, and I'm sure others would be more than happy to help you to get on the LinkedIn. Next, informational interviewing. And so I love to talk to students about informational interviewing, and it never ceases to amaze me how many aren't aware of this best practice. But informational interviewing is simply talking to people who are doing the kind of work that you want to do or you think you want to do, or talking to people who are working where you want to work. And so I often tell students that, yeah, if you want to be an attorney or you want to be a neuroscientist, yes, you can talk to a career counselor, and career counselor can probably give you some information. You can talk to your professors, and your professor can probably give you some guidance, but it's nothing like talking to people who are actually doing the work on a day-to-day basis. And so I encourage students to take that step and actually find people who are doing exactly what you want to do on a daily basis, and just to pick their brain. How did you get into your job? What do you do on a day-to-day basis? What do you like about your job? What are some of the challenges? What classes did you take when you were in school that have helped you? What skills or character traits are required? But all kinds of questions. And so you can find lots of information online on how to conduct an information interview. And once again, your Career Center can help you to get started in this best practice. And it's very simple to get started. It's just a matter of doing it in just 15 to 30 minutes of time with someone over the phone, in person, or virtually, just asking those questions. And by doing informational interviewing, you're going to certainly get deep insight into a career field or to a company. You also will develop potential industry contacts. So everybody that you talk to is someone who can certainly be a part of your network um, from here on out. And it also can potentially position you for internship or a job. So I want you all to hear me clearly. So I'm not advocating for you to do informational interviews and to talk to folks to ask for an internship or a job. You simply are doing these just to get information, just to get advice. But if you represent yourself well enough, the person that you're talking to may potentially keep you in mind in the event that an internship or job pops up on their radar. And so it's happened. It's happened to me personally. And so that's just another benefit. So once again, you go on to informational interviewing, asking for information, asking for advice. So that's your primary objective. But in addition to getting insights and developing a network, it could potentially position you for an internship or job. So just something just to keep in mind. And then finally, your college career center. And so I mentioned up front what advocate I am for a college career center. And so your college career center is there on campus for you, and they can help you to identify and prepare for a rewarding career path, and also how to they can introduce you to employers that are coming to campus, and give you some tips on how to best connect with these employers. And so your college career center can help you in a number of different ways. And so I'm not going to bore you by going through showing everything on the screen, but I think it's pretty clear. So everything from helping you to identify a career path or a major that may be a good fit for you, to offering workshops on a number of different topics, everything from interviewing to networking to resume building, to hosting career fairs, to helping you prepare for interviews or grad school, to negotiating offers. And so your Career Center is a valuable resource. So for those of you who have not used your College Career Center, I would strongly suggest that you pay a visit there and just pop in, just say, hey, some guy suggested that you pop in and find out what a Career Center can offer you. And I don't think you'll be disappointed. And so just wanted to leave you with that. So next, I wanted just to share one of my favorite quotations by the great Maya Angelou. Do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, you do better. So if you have not been aware of informational interviewing, LinkedIn and so forth, now you know better. And so you can do better. And as we get ready to get into the employer piece of this event, you will know even more to allow you to know better and to do better. So I'm encouraging you to listen up and to maybe take some notes and just prepare to put into action the great insights that you can hear from our panel. So without further ado, we're going to do our introductions of our panelists, and I'm going to just go in a particular order. And so I'm going to ask our panelists just to simply introduce who you are, and to introduce your company. And so I'd like to start with Lauren. So Lauren, are you available to get us started?
Yeah, I'm happy to.
Okay, great.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. My name is Lauren Cardenas, and I'm a university recruiter with Grant Thornton, which is a top professional services firm that provides tax, audit, and advisory services. And I'm based in Los Angeles, and I've been with our company for almost 4 years now.
Terrific, Lauren. Thank you. All right, next, Jessica.
Hi everyone, my name is Jess Vitas. I am a manager on KPMG's talent and inclusion and outreach team, formerly our talent DEI team. And I'm also based in our Los Angeles office. And KPMG is a global professional services firm. Similar to Grant Thornton, we also provide services in our audit, tax, and advisory practices. And I always love to say, yes, we are a Big Four public accounting firm, but we do much more than accounting.
Terrific. Thank you, Jess. All right, Carrie, how about you?
Hi everyone, nice to meet you all. My name is Carrie Young. I am a diversity inclusion strategy partner at LinkedIn. I've been at LinkedIn for 9.5 years. And thanks, Ron, for shouting out LinkedIn in the beginning. But again, for those that might not know on the call, LinkedIn is a professional social network, and our mission is to connect the world's professionals to the utmost greatest opportunity. So really excited to have a conversation with you all today.
Terrific. Thank you, Carrie. And Ricardo.
Hey everyone, my name is Ricardo Sanchez. I am a senior manager of talent acquisition at Lionsgate. We are a independent studio, one of the largest independent studios in Hollywood. May know some of our franchises: John Wick, Hunger Games, Twilight series. Also, produce television shows as well. So, really just creating content for global audiences. And so, if you're interested in entertainment, definitely love to connect and share some insight there. So thank you all. And thanks, Ron, for putting this together. I appreciate you having me.
Certainly, Ricardo, it's good to see you again. And as I mentioned, Joshua Gutierrez is not able to join us, but you will hear some information from him a little later on. And then Nohan.
Hey everyone, good afternoon. My name is Noan Cruz, and I am a retail territory recruiter here at Nike. I am based in our Los Angeles office here, which is just a bigger part of our North America, which is up at WHQ in Oregon. And yeah, I've been at the company now 24 and a half years. I'm excited to hit 25 years at Nike soon. And I am also part of our employee resource group, the Latino Friends Network. So we have a lot of ERGs within Nike, and you get a chance to volunteer and be a part of a community. So I'm really grateful to also volunteer within our ERG at Nike. And I cover all of Southern California's stores. So I do all of our store management. I do a lot of our corporate retail EKINs, which we call as our marketing entry-level roles. And then I also do some of our corporate roles if and when they ever need that help. But I'm super excited to be here this afternoon.
Terrific, Nohan. Good to see you. Thanks again. All right, and Casey.
Thanks so much, Ron. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. And my name is Casey, and I'm an internship recruiter at the Walt Disney Company. And I've worked at Disney for about 7 years now, and I love it. I'm super grateful to be here. And I actually started my career in TV production, but then I made a little bit of a pivot to recruitment when I decided to follow my passion for early career development. And it's now very full circle because at Disney now, I typically recruit for a lot of our internships within our Disney entertainment television space. So, yeah.
All right, thank you, Casey. And then last but not least, Trent.
Yeah, hey, thanks so much, Ron. Appreciate it. I'll round us out here. My name's Trent Akers. I'm actually a senior recruiting manager for Wells Fargo. I've actually been with the company for a little over 20 years at this point. Obviously an incredible company. I think, household name from that lens. I head up our early careers functions for many of our programs from that lens. We've got an incredible early talent pipeline that we focus on each and every year. We've got over 220,000 team members here. From that lens, we bring in 1,200 plus interns on a yearly basis. Just such an amazing career path opportunity to really jump into a meaningful, really career, if you will. Our conversion rates are pretty outstanding. Of the, interns we bring in, we do convert well over 80% of them to become full-time employees here at Wells Fargo after graduation. So just an incredible talent pipeline pathway to really develop a meaningful career.
All right, thank you, Trent, and congratulations to you, Noah, just on your 24 years of respective companies, too, soon to be 25. That's very impressive. All right, so this next question, I'm just going to toss out to just anyone on the panel who feels comfortable sharing. So I've obviously talked about career centers and the value that I feel they can provide students, and also their abilities to be able to connect our students to employers. So I just wanted to ask our panel, would you mind sharing maybe some of the ways, if any, that your respective companies have partnered with college career centers? And anyone can take a stab at that.
Yeah, Ron, I'm happy to jump in here. So from like a Wells Fargo lens, career centers are literally our bread and butter. I mean, we are contacting our career centers, and staying in close contact. So I think those relationships are extremely vital for us to really understand how to best engage the student audience on campus. So, obviously career fairs are like one small component that we might look at. More importantly, though, this day and age, it's really about getting in front of our student population, reserving a room, hosting information sessions, tabling events, business showcase events. We do a tremendous amount of panel events on campus where we bring our alumni, from specific schools. But it really starts with career services, really making sure that we understand what opportunities are afforded to us to really engage the students, what do students want to hear. And so we try to reciprocate, that as much as we possibly can. Could be through newsletters, a number of things that way, but ultimately it starts with building the solid relationship or foundation with our career service centers.
Terrific. Thank you, Trent. Does anybody else want to weigh in on your relationships with the career centers?
Yeah, I'll jump in as well. I think for us, I know that we also host, we just recently opened up our internships application, and I know a lot of companies do around this time. And so we at Nike will have our university relations team that actually reach out, and they'll have kind of like they host a night where they'll go and kind of present some of the opportunities. But also myself, like I shared earlier in the panel, we were in the state of Utah, and we visited the University of Utah. We had a tabling session there. They actually had a job fair the first week of school. We also did presentations that we basically present a little bit about Nike, retail, corporate internships at local like schools. And then we also basically partner with all the career centers on anything else that we can do, like resume workshops, mock interviews. So we try to be very intentional depending where our recruiters are to be able to connect with the career centers.
All right, great stuff. All right, so Trent and Nohan have covered a bit. Does anybody else have anything they want to add in ways maybe their respective organizations have partnered with career centers?
I'll jump in. Oh, sorry.
That's good. Really quick. I was just going to say, and as far as like from a student perspective, I would say building a relationship with your career center is really crucial. Finding out who sort of the players are, who's running the different programs, because they're the ones that have connections with everyone, like, within the industry. And so a lot of times when we're trying to break into an industry as a student, like we may not have a connection, or we may not know somebody to refer us. And sometimes, and usually the career center is that person, right? So if you can develop a relationship with your career counselor or whoever's running those programs at your school, you have like an immediate connection, like, first person connection with all these amazing recruiters and managers that are on this call now. So that's just, something to think about as a student to, even if as a freshman, you can start going and just asking questions and start developing those relationships, because you want your name to sort of be top of mind when we reach out to these individuals. So.
All right, terrific. And I appreciate everything you shared, Ricardo, but just also just encouraging freshmen to go ahead and get started early. So thank you for that. And then Jess, I think you had something you wanted to offer.
Yeah, Ricardo, I think was in my brain and said exactly But I think just kind of summarizing, it's a great place to start. Like your career center, I know KPMG, we have great relationships with student organizations on campus as well as the career center. But if you don't know which student organization is going to support you in pursuing the career that you want, that's where the career center comes into play. We share with the career center all of our events that we're hosting on campus, time, what the event is for, and that helps you then learn about other student organizations that you might want to join and then become active on within as a member or becoming part of their leadership team. Your career centers are a gateway to you being able to be intentional of where you spend your time outside of the classroom. So that's why we always want to make sure we're sharing all the information we can about what we're doing from a recruiting perspective. KPMG hosts, I would say, from end of August through September is like we're prime activity right now. So our university recruiters are very, very busy in September and a little bit into October. And to be able to, if you have no idea who your university recruiter is and you want to recruit with one of our companies today, that's where I would recommend you start. It's a great place just because, especially as freshmen, you don't know, I didn't know what I was doing as a freshman. So it was a very helpful resource to have.
All right, great stuff. Thank you, Jess. Does anybody else want to weigh in before we move on? Or we pretty much covered? All right, so just a quick summary of what I heard and heard a lot of great stuff. And so just some of the types of events, so career fairs, information sessions, panel events, tabling, resume workshops, mock interviews. We've heard, newsletters, and then encouragement for students to build relationships with career centers, even as early as a freshman. And then just the career center being a gateway to what students can and should be doing outside the classroom. So great stuff. All right, so next question. This question I'm going to ask everyone to respond to, but just want to ask what your company typically looks for in college candidates, whether it be character traits, skills, experiences. So what is your company is looking at the ideal college student? What are you looking for? And anyone can take a stab at that.
I
can
can
go
hop
first.
in here.
Oh.
All right, everyone's just get in.
Jinx.
Lauren, you want to go first or up to you?
Yeah, I
Okay.
can go. Thanks, Carrie. Yeah, I think two qualities come to mind for me in the time that I've been doing recruiting. One of the qualities is curiosity, and then a willingness to fail. So those I think are like the two biggest things that I'm seeing in terms of these are the folks who are being successful in the recruitment process. And then once they get hired as interns or as our entry level employees, they're able to hit the ground running. And the reason why I picked those two qualities is because we're finding that those students who just they're curious about what we do. They don't know everything about the field of accounting. They might not have taken, all of the accounting courses in the world, but they're at least like open to like what are the types of problems our clients trying to solve, or they're curious about a particular process and just want to dive in and learn more. So just having that willingness to try something new and learn something, even though you're not an expert, I think goes a long way. And people really appreciate that sense of just like, I want to learn more, I'm eager, and I'm hungry. So that's why I say curious. The other piece of that willingness to fail, I get it, as a college student, you're an achiever and you want to get good grades. And so you don't want to make mistakes, right? Like you're not trying to get a B in a class. Like I get it. But I think too, at the end of the day, it's like you're going to make mistakes. And especially in a professional setting, an internship is probably the safest place for you to bump your head and scrape your knee because you're going to get support from managers and peers and other interns who are going to coach you and help you to do better and grow. And I think sometimes we see that hesitancy to make mistakes. And I think as long as we're if you can handle those mistakes gracefully, it might not be pretty, but if you handle it gracefully and can move on and you learn something from it, I think that demonstrates a lot of maturity. So those are two qualities that for sure stand out for us.
All right, terrific. Thank you, Lauren. Appreciate it. All right, and then I think it was Carrie that wanted
Yeah.
to jump in.
Yeah, very similar to Lauren. I feel like as a student, when I was in college, you always think, oh, I need to have the right experience. I need to like have done X, Y, and Z to get this internship. It's actually the complete opposite. I was a recruiter before I went into the DEI space at LinkedIn. All they're really looking for, guys, is soft skills. And Lauren named two really great ones, but additional to that, I want to add is teachable. Do you have the skill sets where Lauren mentioned like you're going to be able to fail, but are you going to be able to take feedback from maybe your manager or someone in leadership and then you're like, oh, I can apply it and I can learn and I can grow from that. So being teachable, I think, is really important. The second point, I would say another skill we're looking for, again, not experience, right? Again, everyone knows you're in college, you're not going to have the perfect resume because, again, you're in college. They're just looking for the skill sets that maybe you've learned in the classroom or maybe you've learned in past internships. Um, so I would say the second thing is what we really like to coin at LinkedIn is called growth mindset. So again, similar to teachable, but it's the willingness to show that you can grow in the role. Again, when you're in an internship, you only have 3 months, right? We want to see in those 3 months, is this person going to be able to having willingness to share ideas, having a willingness to like raise their hand, having a willingness to do X, Y, and Z to go above and beyond as an intern. So I would say those are probably the two things we looked for when I was in recruiting, especially as interns. What are some soft skills that this student might have that we can envision themselves? Because again, you're a college student. We're not gonna pretend or think, oh, this person has X, Y, and Z already on the resume. This is why we're gonna hire them. It's those soft skills that we can see in your classrooms or anything like that.
All right, Carrie, thank you. And I appreciate you sharing that too, especially, talking about experience. Because I know when I talk to students, they tend to be very concerned that they don't have enough experience, particularly at the underclassmen level too. So thank you for kind of helping to soothe those concerns. All right, does anybody else want to share qualities that they look for in college candidates?
Yeah, I can jump in there. I mean, I can tell you from a Wells Fargo lens, we're really looking for analytical capability. I think that is a foundational skill, right? How well can you problem solve? Those are types of things that we've even got a lot of assessments that are really predicated around your analytical capability that lends to like your ability to proceed and move forward throughout the interview process, if you will. So those are some of the things that we would probably look for from that lens. We also do look for leadership capabilities, right? Again, understanding maybe you're in college, but what have you done to really demonstrate or quantify certain components? This could be classroom work. Have you led specific, classroom-based projects? Were you a leader at a prior internship? What extracurricular enrichment activities have you been a part of that allows us to see, how well-rounded are you as an individual? There's more to the world than just like even the college component, right? What have you done to, lead a club, been a part of a club? What other things are you doing that allows you to stand out amongst the crowd from that lens? Those are some of the things, capability-wise, I think that we would oftentimes look for on our end.
All right, terrific. Thank you, Trent.
You bet.
Anybody else?
I wanted to add, I know for Nike, I would say three things. One, if it's at Nike, you have a passion for sport and for athletes. You also have a servant leadership style where you're willing to serve others. And I think the last one is this is something that many of my mentors at Nike have told me, like have an entrepreneurial heart. And what we mean by that is like take ownership of what's in front of you, like show that you're willing to take risk, willing to fail forward. I know that I mean, we hit a whole bunch of other ones that I was writing down here, but I think that for me, one of the biggest thing is that if you have an entrepreneurial heart in the work that you do and you own it like it's yours, then you're willing to take some calculated risk. And for me, if you can show that in a project similar to Trent, show that to me in a project, show that to me somewhere where you volunteered, show that, like, show me where you have this mindset that if you're on your own, we know that you could take the certain risk with the right filter that we give you as a company.
Terrific. Very good stuff. Thank you, Noan. Anybody else want to weigh in?
Sorry, Ron. I would, because Nohan mentioned it, the entrepreneurial spirit. We call it that at Lionsgate, where it's like being proactive, right? You're not waiting for someone to sort of handhold or show you where to go, because a lot of times as students and we have a lot of resources at our disposal on campus, but like, are you tapping into it, right? And I think that piece, whatever that is, that motivation, if you can sort of find a way to do the things that you're passionate about, right? So if you're passionate about marketing or production or finance or whatever it is, like if you're seeking out those opportunities on campus and finding ways, like being proactive and, getting involved. And I think that is what we try to look for, because when obviously, like Carrie said, you're not going to have like all these your resume is not going to be extensive, but there are opportunities within your classroom, within student leadership organizations, things like that, to show that you are being, proactive. And so I think that entrepreneurial spirit, if you can tap into that early on, will definitely serve you well.
Terrific. Thank you. All right. Anything else from our panel in this question? All right, so just a quick recap. So in terms of quality, so curiosity, willingness to fail, and and just along with that, handling your mistakes gracefully, being teachable, having a growth mindset, analytical and leadership capabilities, having a passion, especially with Nike, having a passion for sport athletes, a servant leadership style, entrepreneurial heart or spirit, but being proactive, taking ownership of what's in front of you. Okay, great stuff. All right, so and students, I'm going to ask our panel another 1 or 2 questions, but I'm also going to give you a chance to come and ask questions. So start thinking about what you want to hear from our panelists. And so once again, you'll have an opportunity to put your questions in the chat, or I will give you an opportunity to take yourself off mute and to ask your question audibly. So this next question, anybody on the panel can address this, but wanted to talk about resumes now. And so that's generally one of the first introductions that students have to employers. So what tips can you offer students on how to construct and build a resume that's going to catch your attention? Because you see obviously lots and lots of resumes, so there's certain ones that catch your attention. So what catches your attention in terms of resumes? And anybody can take this question.
I'm happy to jump in. So kind of looping back to how we started our panel, your career center, if you're completely unsure of where to start, I always recommend connecting with your career center, seeing if they can provide a structure or a template about, depending on which career path you're going towards, right? Because I would say all of the companies here have a little bit of a different variety in terms of what they're looking for. Leadership qualities, I would say that spans the gamut. But when we're talking about certain, like the basic qualifications, you want to make sure you have your GPA speaking for KPMG, your GPA, your major, like all of those things you're hitting. And we also know that it's not a secret. AI is out there as a tool, ChatGPT. But what I want to say is use it ethically and make sure you're including that human in the loop element. So when you go to your career center and you spent time figuring out how to create a skeleton of your resume and then going to your career center and saying, hey, how can I really implement me within this resume to showcase my qualities, what I bring to the table? When I look at a resume, what I'm impressed the most by is how a student is able to bring me into that experience in a matter of a few bullets. I don't want to see an essay, I want to see what are the key strengths that you experienced, that you took and were able to grow based on whether it's an internship, whether it's from you being a barista at Starbucks, whether it's from working at Foot Locker. You know, it's any experience is going to showcase to us that one, you're good at time management, and two, that you are able to take on responsibility, being a teammate and a co-worker. So yeah, I would definitely leverage your career center if you have no idea where to start in terms of whether you're going into accounting, whether you're going into marketing, whether you're going into whatever industry is piquing your interest, because I think that'll help solve a lot of questions.
All right, thank you for that, Jess, and also certainly thank you for that plug for career centers. All right, anybody else? Anybody else want to jump in and address that question?
I think if you
Yeah,
have,
no, I mean,
oh, go
I
ahead.
think at the end of the day, right, for us, like from a Wells Fargo lens, I think a lot of it is being able to like be very clear and concise on how you meet the qualifications for the position, right? So being able to tailor your resume to the role that you're applying for is absolutely a huge win. I mean, that's something that is allowing you to showcase to us how you meet the criteria at the highest threshold. There is a lot of competition involved in the early career industry. And so when you think of that, right, don't sell yourself short, really showcase or quantify, you know, how you meet a specific qualification. You know, showcase the leadership components, showcase how, as kind of I mentioned previously, your extracurricular enrichment activities. We want to see that you are well-rounded from that lens. You're a competitive individual. Those are some of the things I think for us that allow you to stand out. We can see very clearly if you have a resume that's kind of a one size fits all approach and you're blasting it out there to, you know, 100 different employers. We want to see how your resume specifically meets the criteria for the role that you're actually applying for. And so I think if you use kind of that shotgun technique where you blast it out there to all employers, we often can see that on our end. But if you tailor it specifically to the role you're applying for, I think that's what allows you to really seize that opportunity and move forward kind of in the application or hiring process.
All right, terrific. Thank you, Trent. All right, any other thoughts or advice on constructing a resume that's going to get the attention of employers?
I think Trent hit it on like right on the money. I think I'm gonna say this very like loosely, like don't just apply to everything. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes we apply for every single role at a company and you have a very bland resume. Be strategic. If you're gonna be in HR, then I see, because I can see all the roles that you applied for. I've had people that have applied to over 788 applications to date. They're all over the place. But if you're strategic in exactly what you're trying to get into, HR or finance, and it's a linear kind of style, and you tailor your resume to that, now that might catch our attention or many of these recruiters here. I would also say create what's called a 10-page resume. Don't freak out. What I mean by that is get a Google Drive and just start building out a resume in chronological order. And that if and when you apply for a certain role, social media manager, then you can pull from your Google Drive the exact experience onto a one-page resume. This is something that I've used personally, and I still have it. My resume is 15 pages long, but when I do apply for a managerial role, I ensure that I pick and grab and then build out. And the other thing I would say, please, if you have a PDF version, put your name on your resume. I know that sounds really simple, but put your first and last name. And I would also challenge you to maybe put your LinkedIn on there. Put a QR code maybe where I can see your project if you're applying for a design role. I want to see your website. I want to see what kind of work you've done. So I would say just depending on the role, be strategic. But if you put your LinkedIn on there, I will automatically go to LinkedIn and kind of go through your profile to see who you are a little bit deeper, right? So couple things, right? 10-page resume, pull what you need to pull, be strategic what you apply for, similar to what Trent said, and just make sure you have a PDF version with your name, have some hyperlinks so that we could be able to like see some of your work that you've done, either from a volunteer lens or from an actual experience of work.
Great stuff, Noan. And I just have to laugh, you know, as simple and as obvious it seems, putting your name on your resume. I was thinking back years ago when I was working for a career center, and at the time, this is going way back, folks, but we're using fax machines, and so students were actually faxing over. That's how far back this is going. But anyhow, this student had a great resume, but failed to put name and contact information, so we couldn't get a hold of the student to be able to help out too. So, but yeah. Thank you for that. Anything else? Any other thoughts on resumes?
Yeah, I kind of have a non-traditional point of view, and this is more on LinkedIn. Thank you so much, Noan, for shouting out LinkedIn. It is
Certainly.
so crucial for everyone to create a LinkedIn now. Resumes, again, are still name of the game, but the way I actually got my job at LinkedIn is actually using the InMail feature to just do discovery work. When I didn't know what I wanted to do, I went on LinkedIn, I typed in, someone was like, "Hey, like seems like you're really good with people. Have you ever thought about recruiting?" No idea, never heard of it. Let me typed in LinkedIn recruiting. And I just emailed a bunch of recruiters at LinkedIn. And again, you're not asking for a job. It's the curiosity mindset. Hey, saw your experience. You got into recruiting right out of college. I'm kind of struggling right now. The job market's kind of hard. Would you be open to setting up some time just to have a conversation? Here's the thing, guys. Humans love talking about themselves. It's just human nature. Maybe out of 10 people, one person responds to you, that's an in. So I feel like kind of using some of those non-traditional mechanisms of maybe just trying to put yourself out there and in that conversation, be curious, right? You're not asking for a job, but it's, hey, really want to learn more about you, really want to learn more about the industry. If anything ever comes up and you think my LinkedIn is a great fit, please keep me in mind. That's actually how I got my job at LinkedIn. So that's kind of a non-traditional way. And again, recruiters might be like, I'm never checking my LinkedIn. I'm never gonna answer a random email call. But hey, maybe one person will, and one person did for me. And that's kind of led me where I'm at. So I would say use other mechanisms on top of applying for jobs, on top of building your resume, because you never know what could happen. That's my advice.
Terrific. Thank you, Carrie. And I love LinkedIn. And so I have no problem with you expounding on the value of using LinkedIn in addition to resumes. So, okay, great. All right. So let me just do a quick recap. Got some great stuff here once again. Starting with your career center to help you to construct your resumes, you getting the basics there. Using AI ethically, and I love that, Jess. Too, I came across a really great article on using AI that was designed for college students, and I shared it out with a bunch of students too, but including the human piece in it. Um, Bullets that will accentuate your key strengths and growth. Um, Being very clear and concise in your qualifications. Tailoring your resume. So a couple of folks really talked about how important it is to tailor your resume to the role that you're applying for. Showcasing, quantifying your qualifications, whether it be leadership or other extracurriculars. Being strategic for your resume application, so not just shotgunning it, applying it to everything, but being strategic, creating a 10-page resume, or as I would call it, no, I think like your master resume, where something that compiles everything, but you can pull from it to put into a one pager, putting your name on your resume, my favorite, and then or your LinkedIn or QR code, and then finally using other resources like LinkedIn in addition to your resume. So great stuff, folks. So I'm going to ask our panel one more question, and then I'm going to open the floor up for questions from students because I know our panel wants to hear from our students. And so I think I'm going to combine a couple questions just to expedite things. And so I want to ask our employers now, and this is something I'm really wanting our players to share, is how students can effectively engage with you. So whether it's at a career fair, whether it's at an information session, an interview, what can our students do that's appropriate and that's effective in terms of their interactions with you? And once again, anybody can jump in and tackle that question.
Yeah, I can start us off. Yeah, that's a great question. So, for example, one idea to potentially prepare for a career fair is before the event, looking up the various company websites to see what types of open roles there might be at these companies currently. on the websites. And then as well, also, you know, perhaps having an elevator pitch or intro at the ready, kind of going into the event. Another example could be, it also might be helpful to just keep in mind that each company might show up to a career fair differently. So some companies might bring recruiters, some might bring, you know, they might bring internship recruiters, they might bring recruiters that are recruiting for full-time roles. They also might bring hiring leaders from the business. So, you know, you might just want to think potentially about tailoring the conversation that you have based on the role of the person that you might be speaking to.
Great point, Casey. And I really like that last one too. Yeah, because there are different representatives, whether it's a recruiter, whether it's someone working out of a business function or what have you. And your conversation should be a little bit different depending on who you're talking to. So thank you for that. Anybody else want to weigh in on that?
One thing that I would add, I mean, Casey really hit all the major points. Preparation is just so key when it comes to especially career fairs. I can't tell you how many times I've been at my booth and a student will come up and it's just like I can clearly tell that they just feel like they had to stop by our table. Which I don't mind. I love talking to people. Carrie is 100% spot on people love to share their experience to help you. Like, that's why we're there. But how to effectively communicate with us and engage with us, have a game plan. When you go to a career fair, there are going to be, depending on what type, if it's a business, if it's a, you know, wide industry type career fair, select 3 or 4 of your top companies that you want to go and introduce yourself to so that you can have a quality conversation. Quality over quantity. You know, I would call myself an ambivert, meaning like I love when I'm out with people, I love to socialize, but my battery drains so quickly. And so if my goal was to talk to every single company, I wouldn't be my best self by the time I got to the, you know, the last 20. So being able to have a game plan and prepare the questions that you want to ask, prepare who you want to talk to. If that's just the recruiter, what kind of recruiting questions are you going to ask them? If you want to really engage with professionals, which I always tell students, that's where you're going to learn the really good bread butter of the day-to-day, why they're there, why they stuck around, how they got there. Especially our, you know, associates, senior associates, they were just in your shoes. Ask them, what was your recruiting journey like? How did you survive this? You know, it gets pretty wild out there. And we know not only are you balancing school, which is, you know, in itself a huge feat, you are also balancing event after event after event when you're recruiting. So having a game plan, when you go to an info session, it's the same thing. What's your game plan? Are you going to stick around and ask questions? If so, what questions do you want to ask? If it's at a interview, we can tell if you haven't practiced. So I would go over, I would say over and over as a broken record, preparation, preparation, preparation. You can't ever be over prepared, but you can definitely be under prepared. And you know, we are rooting for you. And so we always want you to be able to come as in your best self. And so I just, you know, I know it's a lot. And so I just hope that resonates and you don't have to do everything. It's all about quality over quantity.
Terrific. Great stuff, Jess. Thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
All right. Any other responses to that question? How students can more effectively engage with you in different settings?
Yeah, I mean, I think the panel's done a really great job of kind of, you know, identifying the key points. But, you know, I think from that lens, make it memorable, right? I mean, to Jess's point, I think the memorable interactions are always the ones that are prepared, the ones that have their elevator pitch lined up. They know exactly how they're going to introduce themselves. They've done the research on the company. Those are the memorable moments for us from a recruiting lens. Oftentimes, that's the individual I'm coming back to my team saying, hey, let me know when this person applies. I'd like to take a closer look, or we want to take a closer look at that resume. So again, that first impression can be all the difference, right? For you standing out amongst the crowd or you getting lost in a sea of other resumes. So from that lens, again, making it memorable has a lasting impact for us as a takeaway.
Great stuff. Thank you, Trent.
And I was gonna just add on Jessica and Trent's point is on top of preparation, I feel like something that's really easy to do is look up the company that you're interested in and type in culture statement or mission value. Recruiters are gonna know or remember when you bring it up in a conversation, like, oh, like I heard LinkedIn is like really passionate about like connecting individuals with economic opportunity. Boom, they did their research, right? And then maybe in an interview discussion, I like to look if you know who's your interview panel, you look up the interviewers. Oh, they went to this school. Oh, they're interested in this. Again, those are the memorable moments that you build kind of rapport of like this person actually did their research and they actually care about the company and who I am and as an individual and interviewer, I'm going to automatically remember this person. So those are just some things that I've like some tips I've used, but easy, like culture, what they care about the company. And then when you're in interview stage, like maybe one fact about the interviewer that you can maybe bring up organically.
Very cool. Thank you, Carrie. Great stuff, folks. Loving this. Anything else before we open the floor of questions from students? All right. So let me just do a quick recap. So starting off with just with looking up the companies that you're interested in, looking at their websites, checking for open roles, creating your elevator pitch, and knowing that companies do show up differently. And so telling your conversation to the person that you talk to, whether it be a recruiter or whether it be a business professional. Preparation. Definitely heard that emphatically, and having that game plan. Quality over quantity. So identifying 3 or 4 of your top employers and not feeling that you need to talk to everybody, preparing your questions, making it memorable. And that includes being prepared, having your elevator pitch, doing your research. And then, and I really like this too, Carrie, just looking up a company's culture statement, a mission statement, and bringing it up in conversations, particularly during interviews. All right, so students, a lot of stuff, to ponder. And so at this point, I want to open the floor up for questions from you. And once again, you can look through the question here from Elisa, but you can put your questions in the chat or take yourself off mute. And employers, if you do want to start to tackle questions in the chat, feel free to do so. You're not obligated, but I do welcome that as well. So I think it was Elisa. Feel free to go ahead and ask your questions.
Hi, so my name is Elisa. I'm actually a recent graduate from Whittier College with my bachelor's in business with a concentration in accounting and a minor in Spanish. Full circle moment, I actually used to work at the Career Center at my school, being the Handshake collaborator. So I used to connect employers with our Handshake platform. My question is, as someone who is a recent graduate looking to go into the accounting industry, what recommendations do you have, or how do you set yourself apart from other students who may have started earlier or had an internship during undergrad?
All right, sounds like a question for Lauren or Jess.
Yeah, I can hop in. Yeah, so I think one of the things to consider is a lot of the qualification for like an entry level role at a firm like ours or an internship, for example, hinges on your anticipated graduation and then when you are CPA eligible. Doesn't mean that you have the license already. It just means you have enough credits to take the exams. And so given that, I think we meet a lot of folks who are, I just happen to miss that ideal month-year graduation date. I'm maybe a year out of school, I'm 6 months out of school. And so it might seem like, okay, I may have missed the traditional recruitment period for a full-time job. I would say, for students who are maybe in that position, some of the best things that you can do is stay connected to your career center, especially if there's a career advisor who is specifically aligned to accounting and or business. Because again, if they have that personal relationship with the recruiter is probably telling them, hey, I still need to hire a full-time audit associate. Might you have anyone in mind? And I've actually been able to fill some of my open roles that way, where maybe there was somebody that we didn't meet through the big Meet the Firms events or career fair events, but it just so happened somebody knew this person and was able to get them in touch. So I would say to work your network in terms of your campus contacts, career advisors, and then maybe any, friends who probably interned or are working within, right, the firm that you might be targeting, kind of networking there and seeing if there's a way that maybe they can refer you or connect you with the local recruiter for that office. I know at Grant Thornton, we used to have a lot of flexibility around those graduation dates and everything. I think it's different for every firm, but the more that you just kind of ask and be upfront about what your situation is, I think that can help you kind of navigate the opportunities.
All right, terrific. Thank you, Lauren. Jess, did you have
Thank you.
anything to add?
Yeah, Lauren did an amazing job. I would say KPMG is right alongside GT in this too. You, Elisa, being a recent grad, like you're doing the things, you're here, you're raising your hand. I definitely would not say that you're too late. I don't think you're ever too late to try and pursue a career that you feel is right for you. I did a 180 in my career, a decade into working. So it's never too late. And I think what Lauren's just echoing Lauren's sentiment around really tapping into your network and continuing to network, especially if this is an industry that you didn't have a lot of time in while you were at Whittier. I think the information specifics around, KPMG, you can recruit through university recruiting for up to a year after you graduate. So learning details like that really the only way you can learn about details like that is staying connected with folks. So going back to your career center family, like Lauren said, connecting with friends that may be in the accounting industry now, I would definitely encourage you to do that. And I'm sure Ron will share our contact information after this, but I'm always happy to connect with you as well.
Perfect. Thank you, Jess. And just
Thank
something
you.
to remind me too, if y'all are comfortable with it, it sounds like you are, feel free to put your information in the chat. If not, I'll definitely be happy to send it out afterwards. All right, whoops. My apologies. All right, so next question is from Alessia. Alessia, feel free to ask your question.
Yeah, hi. I'm Alessia, and this question is more for Ricardo and Casey. Because I come from a film background, I graduated from LMU in screenwriting, and I'm currently pursuing my MBA. And over the summer, I interned in distribution at Universal, but I want to go into development. So I was wondering if you have any advice for a cover letter, like what I could write in a cover letter to kind of like talk about pivoting. Yeah.
I could jump. I mean, I could take a crack at it. I think it sounds like, are you still in school or have you graduated? You said you're getting your MBA.
Yeah, I'm still in school. I have one more year.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think, first and foremost, whenever you're looking at the creative roles, I think one of the biggest things that leaders look at is your experience with script coverage. So I don't know how much access you have to that, whether it's in your coursework or other internships that you've had in the past within entertainment. I know you mentioned distribution, which is obviously different, but I think those are, if you can highlight that piece of it, it's probably one of the biggest things that you can do. So whether it's coursework or if you've done it in other internships, definitely putting that right in your cover letter as well. I would say even just in your resume directly. I think we can have the whole cover letter debate here as well and get everyone's thoughts. But depending on what company and how they view that, a lot of folks really kind of look at the resume initially, and so I would just say like putting that sort of a relevant experience section maybe on your resume. I saw someone in the chat ask about something similar about like if I did something a couple years ago or some couple semesters ago, like bumping that up on your resume as like relevant experience. It doesn't have to be reverse chronological order, right? Because you're still in school, you're still doing all these different opportunities. So anything that you can kind of put up front that speaks to that creative, I think is what is going to stand out when you're applying to those types of roles.
Great. Thank you, Ricardo. All right. All right. So next question, and please forgive me if I get the name, pronounce the name wrong. Is it Made or is it Maddie?
It's Made.
Oh, Made. Okay, not
Yeah,
Made.
Made.
Okay. Yeah, hi,
No
Made.
worries. Hi, everyone. Thank you for all the useful insights so far. So yes, my first name is Made, but everyone calls me Widya. I'm a current grad student studying design, business and technology at USC, and I'm pursuing a career in digital design, UX design, product design. So my question today is, what advice would you give for grad students looking for internships since a lot of internships are targeted towards undergraduates?
I think it's company specific, right? Like, to your point, like for Wells Fargo, for example, we do have undergrad programs, but we also have master's programs, we have PhD programs. So we do have a number from that lens. A lot of them are predicated on like strategy innovation. We have quants programs. So it just really depends on kind of the background, the company, and what they're offering. So I would say, take a look at the company's website. A lot of the websites will have an early careers kind of section on their site, and then it'll have a breakdown of the different types of programs they offer, even if their program's not in season, right? Because a lot of our cycles are cyclical. So I think you can look at it from that lens, and you can have self-discovery as to what programs do offer, like a PhD or master's type program that may fit more of the mold that you're specifically in. I can tell you, like for example, our undergrad programs, it's very, very specific, at least at Wells, on grad dates. And we're really heavily governed on abiding by those grad dates. So again, just knowing that going in, really thoroughly researching, looking at the job description is going to allow you to kind of compete and win in the right space.
Okay.
Thank you, Trent. All right. And employers, thank you so much too for addressing questions in the panel, excuse me, in the chat. I saw a few answers to some of the student questions. So thank you very much for that. All right. So next looks like we have a question from Martha.
Hello. So my question is like, would it be possible to apply for like different kinds of internships like these if you have a nursing major?
I can tell you yes. I mean, I think at the end of the day, right, a lot of what we look for is transferable skills. So you could be a nursing major, but have like, maybe a minor in something else that essentially yields to a different part of your background. I mean, there is so many individuals, even within our own business groups or executive leaders, that may have, a major that was completely different than what they're doing today from a job exposure perspective. So again, I think we're more trained in a lot of ways to really look at a lot of your transferable skills, and that's what allows you to kind of get a seat at the table. But that would just be my personal opinion. That could very well differ in terms of opinions with the rest of the panel.
Trent, I agree. I think it just really depends. We do the same. Like we have various levels, and if you were doing that, like, does the disciplinary skill sets that you learn are they transferable to another role that we have? 100%. But again, It goes back to your storytelling. It goes back to how you cater your resume. It goes back how you show up in person talking to a potential recruiter, right? So I just think it really just all depends on how you're trying to sell this. Because I may ask you like, oh, it's interesting. Well, you're studying nursing. Why do you want to go into marketing internship? So you got to be ready to be able to answer those questions. And I think it's earlier to the example of like, make sure you're prepared to answer any follow-up questions, which is great because if I have a follow-up question, that shows I have interest and I want to see and hear more from you. So I just think it really depends, but I resonate with Trent on this. It just really how is my whole point would be, how does that show up in the role that I need to get filled? And if so, amazing. Let's get what look, we've had people at our company that have studied something completely different, doctorate, and they are completely in a whole nother field. And it's amazing because of the skills that they took from their old education and how they've applied it. So I think it just really depends, but I'm aligned to Trent.
Okay, thank you, Noan. All right.
To Ron, just really quick on that. I was
Sure, no problem.
You're almost transitioning. It's almost like when you're pivoting careers or if you're pivoting like interests, right? Because if you're pursuing a nursing degree, then if I look at your resume, I'm thinking you want to be a nurse, right? But if you're trying to pivot, like it's not going to happen immediately, right? It's going to take time. It's going to be a gradual thing where you're going to have to build on that to make that transition. So maybe the first internship you apply to, you may not get it, but now you have the blueprint, right, in the job description to go, okay, I need to go and find out how I can get this experience on campus here so I can hit this bullet point and this bullet point and this bullet point, right? And then maybe that next semester and then the next summer, and then it may take some time, but if if you have that determination and you persevere and and then eventually, right, then you land that thing. So it may not be a one-to-one where you apply immediately and you get it, but now you understand what it takes in order to land that internship or whatever it is. And then over the course of like a semester or a couple semesters or a year or two, now you've made the transition, right? And then now you can do it. So I think that's something to think about is like, don't get discouraged immediately if you don't land it. But like now you have to understand and do kind of a self-reflection and say, okay, this is what I need, the sacrifices I need to make, or this is the pivot I need to do in order to be competitive in this other field that now I'm interested in, right? And it's going to take time to get there. And as long as you know that, you'll eventually get there.
Great points, Ricardo. Thank you for that. And I just wanted to add to Martha, certainly encourage you to obviously take what our panelists have shared with you, but also to connect with your career center because they may be able to also provide you some guidance on how to make that pivot and certainly how to message it to employers. All right, so next, I think I'm going to take one more question, and then I want to phase back the panel. And I love taking the questions from students, but I do want our panel to hit on a couple of different things before we end. So, is it Andrea or Andrea? There's a question.
It's Andrea. Thank you.
Certainly, Andrea. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm currently an undergrad studying mechanical engineering, and I know Trent and Jessica brought up this topic of quality over quantity, whether it's through like your elevator pitch or asking insightful questions. I just wanted to ask if anyone could give an example of what a great intro to a convo sounds like, or like a great elevator pitch, if anyone can do that. Thank you.
Well, I have some thoughts. I don't know that it is like a good example, but I think the elements of an elevator pitch is that it should open the door to additional conversation. And what I find really interesting is at career fairs or when people reach out and talk to me is, at a career fair, there's hundreds and hundreds of students. And so I only get to have 5-10 minutes with you. And I'll find that students give me their whole life story and background in that time. And then I don't get a chance to ask questions or kind of get to know more about them. And so an elevator pitch is precisely that. You're just pitching yourself. It could be as simple as, hi, I'm so-and-so studying this. I saw that you are hiring for XYZ. I'd love to learn a bit more about the work you do. And then let the other person hop in and continue that conversation with you. At the end of the day, it is a conversation. So I wouldn't want someone to feel like they're pressured to like get all the answers in that 1, 5, or 10-minute convo. I think it's about opening the door to maintaining a relationship. And I think for me, I found I would rather build that relationship over time and grow some trust, and then we connect you to the right opportunity. Like that's when it really works for me. It's kind of hard when folks show up and they just spill it all at you or shoot it all at you, and then you're trying to make sense of it. And it's not the best use of time, I find. So short and sweet, start the conversation and know that you can always continue that throughout the month or the year, wherever your recruiting journey takes you.
Terrific, Lauren. Thank you. Oh,
Now,
yes, please.
let me give an example here. So I'm gonna give you a real life example. So at Nike, we have someone that's called the chief storyteller at Nike. I'm a big believer in storytelling. I love Lionsgate. I think if I were to pivot, I'd probably jump over Lionsgate. And the long walk is amazing. All right, so but I think for me, Nelson Ferris recently just retired from Nike, 52 years at the brand, the longest tenured employee ever at Nike. And when I had a chance, I always said, if I ever get a chance to meet him, I want his job, and I still want this job. And I said, but the only way I can do it is I gotta know my elevator pitch. So in my elevator pitch, true story, like he showed up as a guest speaker to one of our recruiting events to talk about the importance of like servicing people. So when I see him, my boss was like, look who's over there. I saw him, I kid you not. I got up, I walked over, and I said, Nelson Ferris. And he looked at me, he had no idea who I was. And I said, I just want to introduce myself, who I am. My name is Noan Cruz. I'm from Los Angeles, California. But when I said LA, he's like, you're from LA? And then I kind of stopped and I said, yeah. And he was like, I'm from Long Beach, born and raised. I went to Millikan High School. I went to Cal State Long Beach. And I was like, no way. I lived by Jordan High School. So then all of a sudden, just to Lauren's point, there was the connection. And then he goes, how can I help you? I said, I just want to say thank you for being a great storyteller and being the chief storyteller at Nike. And he goes, everyone's a storyteller, Noan. I said, yeah, but not everyone was a chief storyteller at the brand. And I'm waiting for the day that when you get a chance to retire or ready to pass the baton, I hope I can be considered one day for that role. So I'm looking forward to our conversation. After he presented, he walked up to me and he goes, hey, let's talk this week. And I got a chance to sit down with Nike's chief storyteller for an hour at my week in Oregon. So it just shows up different. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, that's just a real example that I've done. And I'm grateful that I did it because it put a lot of eyes on me. And I've had an opportunity to do some really amazing things internally at Nike through storytelling. So it's just a matter of building a relationship. What's the connection? We're both from Southern California, right? And we went from there. So I'm super grateful for that. So I hope, look, a lot of people are asking about, should I get on LinkedIn? Yeah, shoot your shot, shoot or shoot, right? So you got to constantly shoot, but you got to make connections. And I think lastly, I had someone reach out to me, a guy named Lester. He said, hey, I used to work at LinkedIn. I love talking to Latino professionals. Can I give 15 minutes of your time over some coffee? We met at a local coffee shop. Next thing I know, he just wanted some mentorship, not really work at Nike, just some mentorship. And now he's the first ever Latino director at Alabama University for their career center. Like, it just really depends how intentional you are. So I hope two of these examples, as well as Lauren's call outs, I hope that kind of helps you kind of think like, how do I do this? It shows up differently for the most part.
Great stuff, Noan. Very, very wonderful story and examples. Anybody else want to add that? It's kind of hard to top that, but anybody else want to take a shot at that? If not, I think Noan and Lauren have covered it pretty thoroughly. Okay, terrific. All right, so I'm going to get back to me asking, so panel, we're looking at the time, we have about a little less than 15 minutes. And so I want to ask, make sure we touch a couple of different things. And so part of this panel, this event, is not only about educating students on how to effectively engage with career centers and employers, but it's really inspiration, being inspired. And so as we mentioned up front, looking for an internship, looking for a job can be very challenging, can be very demoralizing, and can really test your resilience, whether you want to continue hanging in or if you want to just quit. And so the next question I wanted to ask is, how would you advise students to deal with setbacks during their internship or job search? And while you're thinking about that, I did want to share what Joshua Gutierrez from Netflix shared with me. As I mentioned, he was not able to be here today, but he did share he did address a couple of questions. And so his advice is, I think the first thing is to know that it's not always going to be perfect. You will have setbacks. Almost everyone you admire in their career has faced rejection, internships that didn't land, interviews that didn't go well, opportunities that went to someone else. It doesn't mean you're not talented. It just means the timing or the fit wasn't right. Especially in a tough market like we're dealing with right now, resilience is really important. When a setback happens, take a step back and ask, what can I learn from this? Maybe it's practicing your interviewing, how well you tell your story, and know how to you'd appreciate that. Maybe it's telling your resume more closely, or maybe it's realizing that the role actually wasn't actually aligned with what you want for the future. I also encourage students to treat recruiting like a relationship and not just networking. Every interaction with a recruiter, career center, or company is a chance to build relationships and gather insight. Sometimes those conversations circle back months or even years later, like mine did with a current job at Netflix. I worked with a colleague over 10 years ago at Teach for America, and she hired me for my previous role at Netflix. It's just extremely important to stay resilient. So that's what Joshua had to share to that question. So now I want to ask other members of our panel, is there anything that you'd like to share to inspire our students to hang in there and to stay resilient?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, right, in my personal opinion, I think setbacks is where the most growth tends to happen. And so I think if you're somebody that can look at yourself objectively and kind of take it away as like, okay, maybe, gosh, I didn't get this interview, being able to self-reflect on what do you think you could do differently next time to compete and win that opportunity.
Terrific. Thank you, Trent. Anybody else want to share and address that question?
One thing
And so was it that?
Oh, I'm sorry, Trent, did you have more to share? I didn't mean to cut you off. Did you have more to share?
No, you're good. I think I might be having some internet issues here. So feel free.
Okay, no problem. Okay, Jessica, please go ahead and continue.
Yeah, the way that Joshua started his insight is so spot on. I think acceptance is the key, that setbacks will be a part of your journey, but I'm only going to speak for myself, but I'm sure all the panelists here can attest that setbacks have been a part of their journey. And it's all about perspective. I think it's so important to know that you aren't alone in experiencing failure, not getting the interview, not landing the job you wanted. Everyone is going through that. So I think when you remember that you aren't in this alone, it really lowers the volume of I'm not going to get it, or I'm not, insert very negative, untrue statement that our brains like to tell ourselves. Because, as pursuing your college education is no small feat. You all are high performers. You're putting yourselves as priority in furthering your education. And that is a huge accomplishment in and of itself. There is no growth without failure. In order to grow, you need to fail. And I try to remind myself of that. I applied recently at KPMG. We have a great internal rotation program. I applied for a role and I didn't get it. And in that moment, a lot of negative feelings came up, but it's just, if I don't take the shot, I may not get the opportunity. You fail 100% of the times when you don't take the shot. So if you don't risk the chance of not landing the interview, of not even getting a call back, you're doing yourself a disservice. So what I've learned over the years is what this up here will tell you a lot of things that are untrue about what you're capable of doing. And so as long as you surround yourself with people who are pursuing, pushing themselves to pursue a career like you are, I promise you that you will achieve what you put your effort in. And being able to showcase that growth mindset. I think we're doing really well at circling back on this panel. I'm loving it.
Yes, yes.
And that's what we look for in candidates. At KPMG, we're constantly adapting. I know all of us are experiencing this huge disruptor called AI. And if we can't fail and learn how we can better use this technology, then we're not going to grow. So keep trucking. We're rooting for you. We know it's tough and challenging, and the job market is difficult. But we believe in you. So if you need a cheerleader, I'm here.
Very nicely said, Jess. Thank you for that. Does anybody else want to add a little bit of inspiration to encourage our students?
I would say be reflective. I mean, to Jessica's point, I don't think people realize when we were in Utah, I had someone tell me that they went through 3 rounds of interviews and they ended up not getting the role. They were really, really down on themselves. And I said, let me give you an example of how amazing that was that you got that far. And they were like, well, I didn't think it was amazing. And I think to Jessica's point, there was still so much negative things. Like, ladies and gentlemen, we all know this, right? In order to have diamonds, there has to be pressure, right? So there's going to be hard moments. It's okay to have hard moments, but also celebrate that win. I told this particular individual that, look, we probably see, depending on the role, anywhere from 100 up applications. In my case, depending on the hiring manager, they may tell me, Noan, I only want you to call 10 people. And out of those 10 people, I want you to pick the top 3 candidates that are going to go to interviews. So I'm like, consider if there was 300 people that applied and you were the top 3 out of the 300. That's pretty like darn amazing. If I weren't to say, like celebrate that. That means you got a potential. You did get an experience to get eyes on you and be reflective. Anytime you get a chance to be able to have that, walk away, be reflective, celebrate, and learn where the opportunity was, and you will get there 100%. I will say this. Remember, like, haters are a good thing to have in life, okay? Because people don't hate the good ones. They hate the great ones, so be great. And you know who said that? The late, great Kobe Bryant. So surround yourself with greatness if you want to be great, and don't worry about the haters, because haters are a good thing to have while you're getting after in life the career that you want.
Terrific. Wow. Okay. Thank you, Noan. Okay, great. Anybody else want to add to that? This is good stuff.
What I would say is, I think a lot of times we get caught up with like brand names, and there's a lot of major brand names on the screen right now. And we think that if we don't hit that home run immediately, like Netflix or Disney, that we somehow failed, and we haven't. And I think, casting a wide net, being open to opportunities, when I think of entertainment, smaller production companies, smaller management companies, like going to work for a writer, like just finding ways to get involved and build your experience. It doesn't have to be at the big name right away. So don't get discouraged if you don't get hired at a Lionsgate or at a Nike, right? There's other opportunities out there, and you just got to be open to them. And then again, sort of building your experience brick by brick. And then just taking opportunities, right? Sometimes, as you'll probably find in your career, you have a vision of like, this is what I want to do. And, I was a journalism major in college, and I wrote for newspapers and magazines back in the day. And then I pivoted and I ended up here, right? And I always thought like I'd be covering Kobe and the Lakers, right? That was my dream. But it didn't turn out that way, and that's okay. And I'm still feel as successful, right, in my career, even though I haven't like fulfilled the dream that I thought initially that what I wanted to do. So eventually, some of you will land that dream job, and it's amazing, but your dream job will shift along the way. And as long as you feel like you've given your full effort and you're gaining, that experience, and you're putting everything you can into those opportunities, it's like an avalanche, or kind of you gain momentum. The more experience you get, it opens up another door. The next connection connects you to the next person, and so you just build that momentum over time. And when you look back, it'll all make sense, and you're like, okay, I see why that door closed, because it opened up this other one for me. And so just keep grinding, and I think you're going to land exactly where you need to be.
Very good. All right, good stuff. All right, so folks, I'm looking at the clock here. So I wanted to have us do a wrap. I want to read one more insight from Joshua, and then I want to give our panel a final chance. Any final words? We've covered a lot, and I thank our panelists very much for all that you've shared. And so I'm going to share this piece from Joshua, and then if anybody else wants to add any final words of advice for our students, I'm encouraging them to feel free to do so. So Josh, and addressing the question, what advice do you have to inspire students in the career journey? He says, a former boss told me something that was really important to me in my career journey. Be interested, not interesting. Curiosity is extremely important and valuable when building connections and relationships for your future career. So ask as many questions as possible and be open to new and exciting conversations. But by showing career professionals that you're deeply interested in what they do, rather than just spouting off all of your accomplishments and accolades, they would see you have a knack for wanting to learn and grow, which inspires people to trust you more. And so what he shared too connects back to much of what our panelists already shared about growth and so forth. So panel, any final words of advice, final words of encouragement for our students before we wrap? If not, no worries, because I know we covered a lot.
I think one thing I'll offer up is be patient with yourself. I think it's very easy to look at peers and look at folks and think, man, they're so ahead of me. I'm behind. I know it can get really easy to get down on yourself, but everyone is on their own pathway, and you don't know what lies in store for you. So sometimes, you think it's going to be that linear A to Z journey. And I think you've heard from a lot of our experiences, that's not the case. We do a bunch of strange things. We have different careers over the course of our life. And what we study in school oftentimes isn't what we end up doing for work or a vocation. So just be patient with yourself and open to experiences, and you'll get to where you need to go. And sometimes where you need to be is right where you are, as hard as it may sound at times, right? But I would just say to give yourself that grace and be patient with yourself.
Terrific, Lauren. Thank you. Anybody else have anything, any final
Yeah,
advice?
I would add on to that. Give yourself space to flow, meaning don't marry one future for yourself. Like if you are super passionate about getting into the entertainment industry and you've dialed into this like 5-year plan for yourself, I'm not hating on anyone who loves to have a 5-year plan. I love to have a 5-year plan too. But I just giving you that insight of it's okay to deviate. When we deviate, that's where I would say that's where I've found the most magic in my journey, is when I've just taken a risk that was not at all part of my plan. I'm a CPA. I started an audit at KPMG, and I really thought that was my plan. And then I started realizing how much I love working with people. And then this opportunity came up. So that's why I think having a plan is great to an extent. So give yourself that space, that like creative wiggle room, so that when it's not coming to fruition, it's not because you're not doing well. Life happens, and it keeps happening whether you're on the train or not. So it's better to have a growth perspective about it versus why is this happening to me? It's happening for you. And we're all rooting for you.
Very cool.
And if I could add to that, I think that
Yes, please.
it's important, metaphorically speaking, to have a board of directors in your life. And what do I mean by that? Find mentors, a mentor that can be a financial advisor to some things of decisions that you're making. Maybe find a mentor that can tell you, navigate certain career journeys. Like find people in your life that are not family or best friends, but people that you intentionally pick. maybe someone that you can go to be able to share everything that's on your heart and on your mind that you just need to get it off your chest. Like find that little board of directors, metaphorically speaking, right? It could be 3 to 5 people, and try to meet with them at least once a month, right? And if you can afford it, like treat them, maybe treat them for like a coffee or tea, whatever that looks like, or maybe just sit down or go for a walk, right? And just try to find time of like always bouncing ideas off and navigating, because to many of these amazing professionals here, sometimes the plans don't go accordingly, but that doesn't mean that there isn't a purpose behind it. So build that board of directors that you could be able to bounce some of those ideas and concepts and approaches in life that can get you to that next level or just your first level, right? You got to start somewhere. So I hope maybe that can help you to understand, like start thinking about some people. It could be a professor, it could be a counselor, it could be someone that you look up to. Just try to figure out, but be intentional and know what you're getting into. And hopefully that can help.
Great stuff. All right. Anything else? All right. All right. Well, panelists, thank you so much once again for taking time out, well, I know your busy schedules are on a Friday, to spend some time with our students and all the wonderful insight. You did not fail to do as I thought you would do. So thank you so much for that. And students, thank you for showing up too. Not every student that learned about this was able to show up, but thank you all for showing up and hanging in here too. And so we certainly hope that the information provided has helped to build your confidence, giving you some tools to help you be resilient, and also educate you to the point where you feel more comfortable with engaging with career centers and also employers. And so at this point, we're going to conclude. And thank you all for attending. And this recording will go out to all those who've RSVP'd. And employers, just know too, all this wisdom you shared will have an opportunity to go out to a lot more students. So thank everyone again, and have a great rest of your Friday and weekend.